Hi everyone. Give a quick introduction about myself and my colleague Devrani. I'm one of the co-founders of Gramener. Gramener is a data science company. And what we are here to talk about is what data science is when it's applied in practice in real life. How do you go about applying or using data in real life? So a little bit about myself. I did my chemical engineering at IIT Madras because I had no choice. I basically picked every single branch that I could get, with the sole exception of chemical engineering, because that was the one subject that I knew I wouldn't like. And the professor looked at my response and said, "Oh, for your rank, you will get chemical engineering. So put a tick in chemical engineering." And he pretty much ticked it for me. So I've spent most of my life running away from that. And in the process of running away, I got hooked into computers because at that time it was much easier to get a job in software than anywhere else. And from there, wandered into data. But most of what I do right now is helping people understand data better. And I'm joined by my colleague Devrani. I'll hand over to her to introduce herself, and then I'll talk you through what our talk is about. Devrani, over to you.
Thanks, Anand. Quite a lovely audience. I'm Devrani, an information designer. I work with the Story Labs team at Gramener. Majorly, my work focuses on figuring out ways to represent data in a way that it's easy to comprehend and understand. I use different medium to create these representations or visualizations. It could be data art or data humanism, or even using comics to narrate stories. That's pretty much what I do at Gramener. And I hold a human-centered design degree from Srishti. That also led me to what I have been doing at Gramener. Yes, and I will be talking about a bit about data humanism today.
And for those of you who might not have actually gotten that, yeah, Devrani actually has an official job that, among other things, is about creating comic data stories. A little more about that later. Well, let's talk about data science. Particularly, there are two parts to today's talk, roughly the left brain and the right brain. The left brain is about cognition. It's about critical reasoning. It's about understanding stuff. Data science has two sides to it. The other side is emotion. It's design. It's about how we communicate. It's not enough just to get the answers. It's also important to prioritize them. It's also important to communicate them well. And what we're going to do today is talk about both sides and how they apply in practice. You're probably more familiar with the cognition side. So I'm going to show you how stuff that you've learned is going to be applied or is being applied. The second is probably more new to you. So Devrani will be talking more about what it is than how it's applied. Well, let's take education. Some of you mentioned that education can be used to figure out what teaching methods work better. Well, in fact, that was exactly one of the things that the NCERT came to us for. They said, we have the National Achievement Survey, which has data on every single student. And for each of these students, what we have is data on, number one, how well they scored in maths, reading, science, and social science. Second, what they did differently. Were they reading more books? Were they watching more TV? Were they playing a lot? Were they using computers? All these behaviors. So one of the things that we can do is ask the question, for example, what impacts, what's a better intervention for students? Will it help if we add computers into the syllabus, get them to use computers more? Will it help if they had to read books? Let's just take those two as a topic. And what I'll do is show you, let's say, the impact of reading books. So this is specifically for the National Achievement Survey for class 8, where if you take reading a book as a behavior, children who never read a book scored lower than children who read a book once a month, who scored lower than children who read books once a week, who scored slightly more, a whole lot more actually, than children who read a book every day. Kind of interesting, but it looks like there's a point of diminishing returns. Maybe the children who are reading a book every day are probably, reading the books and not studying, which could well have its own set of implications. But up to a point, it does seem to have an impact. And it looks like between the worst kind of behavior, which is never reading a book, to the best kind of behavior, there's a 2 percentage point improvement that we can drive. Now, how does one do this? Simple averages. Take all the children who never read a book. There are about 14% of the students that are there. Take their marks, whatever it is, take that as the base. How many students read once a month, which is the second option in the survey? 12%. They scored 1.2%. 37% read once a week and they scored 2%. That's it. All we're doing is calculating a simple set of averages and comparing them. And we can infer that the variation is about 2% between those who never read versus the best kind of behavior. But is this true across all subjects? For example, does reading actually help more in reading marks? Yes, a 7% improvement, that's solid. Does it help? How about in mathematics? Not much, about the same as the average, 2%. What about in science or social science? Science, it's slightly higher, 3.5%. And in social science also, it's slightly higher than the total, 2.5%. So individual subjects, yes, it makes a difference. But if you take the total, not so much. Okay. How does this compare against, let's say, use of computers? So those who don't have a computer or never use once a month, etc. Now, it's interesting that those who say no computer use or don't have a computer are scoring the most in social. That's bizarre, right? That's a pretty large number of students. Why is that? No computer use, there's a 6.5% improvement compared to never use. But it looks like those who say no computer are actually scoring more than any other kind of behavior. No idea why. Counterintuitive and leads us to start questioning the data. In fact, science is the only area where using the computers actually seems to have a positive impact compared to no computers. So with that, one kind of conclusion that you can draw is, yeah, books, yes. Computers, not quite. Either that or we need to look at the data a little more carefully. And we can start looking at other factors as well. So this is an aggregate saying how much does, let's say, reading get influenced by gender, age, use of calculator, reading books, computer use, and so on. And we can ask what makes a big difference to mathematics. And well, computer use seems to be pretty high, but we know that comes from not using computers. So, okay. Father's occupation and education, mother's occupation and education seem to be a fairly large factor. Whether you have help in household is a fairly large factor. It looks like mathematics is strongly influenced by playing games. Put another way, the more you play games, the more you score in mathematics. That's not true for reading. Yeah, good to play a little bit. But beyond that, see, as long as you're playing once a month, beyond that, there's no real benefit to reading. What about television? Is that good or bad? Watching TV seems to be good for reading, actually. The more you watch TV, the better your reading scores. But it just kills your mathematical ability if you watch TV every day. In fact, watching TV every day is worse than those who never watch TV. And those who never watch TV are mostly people who don't have TV in the first place. So, short answer, if you want to be a journalist and improve your reading ability, watch TV. If you want to be an engineer and want to score better in maths, go out and play. So yes, one of the things that we can actually do is identify the impact of different kinds of teaching or learning methods on education. I saw a few raised hands, so let's talk. I don't know how to manage this, but people can feel free to unmute themselves. Okay, Manu, your hand is raised. So
it said that watching TV helps, but it's likely because I think the people who have a TV but don't watch it that often will do better because
go on, because
when they do that, like if they watch TV, then they're losing out on study time. But if they don't have a TV, they get more marks because the family is more poor and the parents are less likely to be educated.
A very fair point. So yes, those who don't have TV are typically the ones who never watch TV.
Yeah.
Therefore, data.
Because anyone who has a TV will likely watch like at least once a month or once a week.
Exactly, very true. But what we don't know is whether children who have TV but don't watch it tend to score better or worse. That's information that is not there. So maybe that's the second study that one can do. You're right.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we believe
Right now, the only thing that we can say is that it's better to watch TV once a week than once a month, and it's better to watch TV once a week than every day. But we can't say anything about not watching TV, because not watching TV might be better, because as you go up the thing, like people who watch never once a month, it's usually because they don't have the resources to do so.
Yeah. Let's evaluate that. We do know which of the students are below poverty level and which are above poverty level. So where it says yes, these are the poor children, and where it says no, these are the rich children. And well, rich is relative, at least above the poverty level. And what we find is that for children that are below poverty level, it doesn't make so much of a difference. It's only 0.8%. It's only for children who are above the poverty level where watching TV seems to be making some kind of a difference. So maybe that's supporting what you're saying, which is that TV is a function of whether parents are educated, have a strong income or not. Because for those that are below poverty level, the variation is surprisingly low. Maybe. Avitsya, you have your hand raised.
Yes, sir. Sir, also we could say that it's more of distractions. So take a book or TV or video games or computer, anything for that matter. So the things which say every day, that means those children are particularly distracted in that particular thing. So if they're reading a book every day, they're distracted from the studies and just concentrated on that book. If they're watching TV every day or playing computer games every day, then they're distracted because of that, and they're not getting enough time to concentrate on studies and hence scoring less.
Quite possibly. And with that, what we're getting into is an understanding of why the result is what it is. But that's something we'll talk about a little bit later, the interpretation.